Aggramar is arguably the biggest jump in difficulty for most players inside Antorus, and it comes right at the end of the raid. However, in terms of mechanical difficulty as an enhancement shaman, you won't find a lot of specific things that will bother you as you reside in the melee. There's a few things that you can do, however, to help your raid out and lend yourself to the fight, but your vulnerability in particular due to the flame rend casts will be something that you really need to pay close attention to make sure that you survive. First and foremost, like always, is the tier 30 talents. Your two choices here lie entirely in mobility, as that is very useful in the fight at certain moments. Feral Lunge is the offensive choice, allowing you to get straight back in after each Searing Tempest and re-engage for more damage, and quicker movement based on what technique order Aggramar performs. Windrush, on the other hand, helps all the other melee in your group, though only every other Tempest, generally. But more importantly, you can also help your tank get to the edge with their ad very efficiently during the intermission so that you can get that over with quickly. This is entirely at your discretion based on what your raid needs more, and that is a context thing that you should really be gauging in the first few pulls of the boss. Second is defense and mobility, and we're going to start with movement, predominantly tied to Spirit Walk. Generally, you shouldn't have any issue using it for each Searing Tempest, though dependent on the technique order, it can occasionally desync and not be ready, and if that happens, you need to be ready to run out early and hop into Ghost Wolf to safely get out. You can also make use of Windrush to cover those dead Tempests if taken, and also convey that to the melee. Otherwise, make sure to make use of your lunge straight back in so you can carry on damaging. With defense, you need to be paying attention to your health very consistently during this fight, and if there's anything unusual happening with your group during flame rends, pressing Astral Shift if you aren't topped just before it comes in to dodge your death is going to come in clutch and save a wipe. Be aware in the same way that you can cast a quick healing surge or use a health stone to top yourself, as the highest priority is surviving during these rends, and it will do well over 5 million damage depending on your melee soak size or above, and that's going to kill you unless you've got extremely high gear. Otherwise, don't be afraid to burn up some of that Maelstrom on a healing surge here or there throughout the fight during some of the more dicey moments, as there is constant damage going on and sometimes the healers can struggle and fall behind. Third is DPS optimization and gear choices. And for your DPS, the first point is going to be personal to your raid comp and timers, and this is something that you're going to have to gauge yourself during progress. If you are finding difficulty in the intermissions dealing with the larger flame adds, you should ideally be saving Doomwinds and Earthen Spike for these just before the intermission starts, which should generally be only for around 10 or so seconds. However, if the intermissions are fine and DPS is strong, using it on cooldown can net you more uses and more consistent boss damage overall, which is going to be useful due to the occasionally Titan Rage, but this is contextual to your raid. This can also apply to holding Feral Spirit at the tail end of phase 2 for the second intermission, but never for the first, as you'd be holding it for well over a minute. You're also able to apply Crash Lightning on the Ember adds when they are gripped toward the boss, and during the intermission on the flame and the boss when he's inactive. And with some practice, you can also do this on the Embers during the main phases in mid-air with good timing for a solid boss damage increase, but don't worry if you can't pull it off that frequently. For gear, while some legendaries such as Cephos and Pridas may seem appealing, both are relatively poor choices and you should stick to the standard choices that you usually do. Cephos can interfere with the raid CC cycles, which is really dangerous on the Embers during the main phase, and the constant ticking damage that you'll be taking will degrade your Pridas shield, which means it won't really reliably be able to help with the flame rends, which are the only super hot spots in the fight. Lastly is Minutia, and this is just a single tip that I could give you, is taking Earthgrab Totem to be able to help lock down a single ad briefly during the intermission, which can also be buffered with an Earthbind Totem slightly ahead of it. This allows you to slow it until the phase is over, and whilst it's not an ideal form of CC for the ads, it definitely adds another option into the CC pool, which you should be aware of, and adds an extra element to bring an Enhancement Shaman to the fight. This has definitely been one of the longer ones to explain, as there's a lot of details to the fight given the ramp up in difficulty. And up next is Argus, which will be even longer, which I do hope to see you there.
So the love in my future's far away, but I'll stay, I'll stay. Just take a leap of faith, we'll find a way for you and me. Can't look back and run from what I feel inside. There's no more time to hide, because I